Everyone mentioned today is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and everything I discuss here is theory until proven fact, even if it is. Hey guys, how you going? Okay, let's get into this. This is a thread by the Vigilant Fox. He dismantled 2 Democrat narratives in real time. Scott Jennings, KY, dropped a bombshell about witnessing a murder in Union Station, obliterating the idea that DC is safe. But when an unhinged panellist denied Trump's peace efforts, he sent her into a tailspin with one line. What reality do you live in? She completely lost it on live TV. Watch it all unfold. 2 headlines have dominated the week: President Trump sending in the feds to crush violent crime in Washington, D.C., and his scheduled meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin this Friday. Both stories came up on CNN last night, and Scott Jennings ended up stealing the show. The panel started with Trump's decision to federalise the D.C. police and call in the National Guard. As the usual voices on the left lined up to attack the move, calling it authoritarian, Scott Jennings sat back and listened until host Abby Phillip invited him in. That's when the temperature in the room spiked. Jennings had witnessed the senseless violence in Washington firsthand, and he's told the story to prove it. But there's an obvious difference between DC and any other city in America. You know, a few months ago I was in Union Station. I saw a body hit the floor at the bottom of the escalator in Union Station because there was a murder right in front of me up on the 2nd floor. I was going to get a tie and I heard the shots and saw the body hit the floor. He said he's been listening to people all day claiming Washington is safe, and he's not buying it, regardless of whatever crime stat the Democrats are regurgitating in order to bury their heads further into the sand. So I've been listening all day long to people trying to make some argument that Washington, D.C. is a safe place. It's not a safe place, and we can argue about statistics and numbers. There's a police commander right now on suspension because there's some allegation that statistics have been altered. But we can argue about that all day long. Nobody in their right mind who lives there or visits there on a regular basis would tell you that Washington, D.C. is safe, and everybody who goes there knows it. Let's have a listen. It was a total truth bomb that was lobbed onto the CNN panel.
But there's an obvious difference between D.C. and any other city in America. You know, a few months ago I was in Union Station and saw a body hit the floor at the bottom of the escalator in Union Station because there was a murder right in front of me. Up on the 2nd floor, I was going to get a tie. And I heard the shots and saw the body hit the floor. So I've been listening all day long to people trying to make some argument that Washington, D.C. is a safe place. It's not a safe place. And we can argue about statistics and numbers. There's a police commander right now on suspension because there's some allegation that the statistics have been altered. But we can argue about that all day long. Nobody in their right mind who lives there or visits there on a regular basis would tell you that Washington, D.C. is safe, and everybody who goes there knows it. But there's an obvious difference between.
Okay. Jennings said the reality is simple. Trump's move is about doing what can be done right now to make Americans safer. I'm going to play this first so I don't have to read it as well.
I think what the president is responding to today is, what can I do today? D.C. is the only city I really have control of, so I'm going to try to give them some support. He's getting a note of confidence from the D.C. police union. I suspect if they did things in other cities, other police unions in those cities would also offer some support. And so what I would simply say is that all you can do is hit the next shot. And the next shot right now, I think for a lot of Americans, is what can be done today to reduce violent crime and to make me feel safer in my neighborhood. I think he's going to get a lot of political support for the idea that the federal government's getting a little more muscular when it comes to cracking down on violent crime.
Okay, she was dying to say something there. It was about taking action to counter years of Democrat inaction. I think what the president responding to today is, what can I do today? Okay. He explained it like a golfer's mindset. You play the next shot in front of you. That's exactly what President Trump is doing. And he said, yep. Okay. I think he's going to get a lot of political support for the idea the federal government is getting more muscular when it comes to cracking down on violent criminals. Then the conversation turned to the other story, Trump's upcoming meeting with Putin. Abby Phillip and the other Democrats on the panel tried to frame it as Trump bending the knee to Moscow, zeroing in on his acknowledgement that ending a war over territory will inevitably involve some territorial swapping. How else would you end a war over territory to stop the killing? We're going to let her and him. Okay, let's go.
So, Scott, I mean, how does this end? I mean, is Trump basically signaling before he even gets to the negotiating table that he's willing to more or less give Putin what he's asking for?
No, I don't think so. I think he's saying what's realistic, which is that this only ends with a negotiated settlement. Both parties are going to have to go home and feel like they got out of this with something that looks like a victory. I don't think there's ever going to be a scenario where Putin goes back to Moscow and takes a knee and waves a white flag. And you certainly don't want that for Zelensky, because the Ukrainians are the victims here. They're the ones who've been invaded. And so, but the reality is, you know, something's going to have to happen on the edges, and if you want it to end. And I think there's new public opinion polling in Ukraine that indicates that people there are very fatigued by this war. They're certainly hoping for it to end sooner rather than later. The head of the NATO Secretary General is acknowledging publicly that, yes, there's going to have to be some concessions here to get the war to end.
So, Scott, I mean...
Okay. In other words, NATO's on the same page as President Trump. These are just the facts, no spin. That's when Jennings dropped the line that lit the fuse. Okay, let's let him say it.
The president has solved like 7 conflicts this year. I'm willing to give him some latitude to talk to Vladimir Putin and break the deadlock and try to move us toward a place where the killing comes to an end, because I think that's what we should all be praying for.
He actually hasn't solved 7 conflicts. There's been a lot of talk about that.
What reality do you live in? He's literally got these guys in the White House where they're signing documents and shaking hands.
Yes, signing
Acknowledge the man is solving peace.
And India questioned about whether that was an actual
deal. It happens on almost a weekly basis. Just acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it.
And I will also acknowledge that Donald Trump seems to have an affinity for Vladimir Putin in a way. No, you're not going to get away with calling me a liar. I know that's like the line you have to throw out, but I'm not lying.
You're lying.
Nobody's lying about anything.
There you are.
The president has solved.
She is. Oh, chickens are going off in the background. Jennings then performed the infamous humiliation ritual on his latest kill, the one that fans have come to know all too well. The slow sip from his mug, the glance directly into the camera, and the panel is still in meltdown mode. He didn't need to say a word. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. That was his way of telling the audience at home he knew exactly how that exchange had landed. Let's have a look.
You can ask the countries who were involved in this. You can ask the countries who were involved.
Yeah. The exchange wasn't quite over. Setmayer accused Trump of having an affinity for Putin. Okay?
Anyway.
Whatever you say. You're the expert.
So Donald Trump's affinity for Vladimir Putin versus the way he treats Zelensky, who's the one
Did
that's
he show
actually
affinity to them when he just arranged for the arms to NATO?
I'm
just sorry, Abby. We're saying things that do not exist in reality. He just got NATO to do hundreds of millions of dollars of lethal weapons to Ukraine. What affinity to Russia is that? It's crazy.
Let me just let her finish so I can even understand what point she's trying to make.
Let me
let her finish the point.
Anyway.
Whatever you say.
This woman's got severe TDS. Okay. By the end of the segment, Jennings had made his point crystal clear for anyone who was actually listening. There are people on the left so entrenched in their opposition to Trump that they would rather keep a war going than to allow him a chance to end it. And special thanks to Overton News for helping Vigilant Fox here. You can follow them on Twitter. And that'll be it for today, guys. It's a very short one today, but yes, that's how it is. Okay, have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.